My roommate's boyfriend moved in without my permission, never paid rent, and gave me a list of rules I had to follow if I wanted him to stay. It was a nightmare. Hey there. Welcome to today's story. What are you up to? Get comfortable because I've got something to share with you. Today's story takes place in a situation where the main character faces a difficult, overwhelming challenge. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like everything was falling apart, yet you had to stand your ground? I'm sure some of you can relate. Stick around till the end to see how the character handles it, and trust me, you'll want to know how it all turns out. And hey, if you enjoy this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could help me hit 1,000 subscribers. It'll give me the motivation to keep bringing you more stories like this. Thanks so much for being here. It was supposed to be perfect. A modern apartment just a few blocks from the college, where everything was sleek, smart, and efficient. The kind of apartment you'd find on Pinterest, with lights that adjust to your mood and thermostats that know when you're too hot or cold. My name is Tessa Harper, and I live with my best friend Lena Mitchell in what was supposed to be our little slice of independence. The two of us had been inseparable since high school. We both found ourselves at the same university, and living together seemed like the natural next step. It wasn't luxurious, but it was comfortable. 2 bedrooms, a minimalist kitchen, and an open living area that showcased our combined love for tech gadgets. The best part? Our apartment was fully automated, controlled by a single app on my phone. I could turn off the lights, adjust the curtains, and even start the coffee machine with a tap of a button. Living here felt like stepping into the future. For the first few months, it was just the two of us. We had our little rituals, study sessions, movie nights, and spontaneous kitchen experiments. We'd share a bowl of popcorn while we played video games or binge-watched Netflix. But then it happened. Lena met Max, a guy she'd met at a party. At first, it wasn't a big deal. He was charming, funny, and they seemed to hit it off. But like most relationships, it slowly started to take over. Max would come over more and more often. Lena would sneak him into the apartment after I'd fallen asleep, and he'd spend the night, his sneakers still kicking around in the hallway when I woke up. It wasn't until his things started appearing around the house that I noticed. First, his toothbrush in the bathroom, then his clothes, and before I knew it, he was there every day. Lena always justified it. He's just visiting. It's not a big deal. But I knew things were shifting. Max was living there now, and it wasn't just physically. It felt like his presence was embedded in the walls, in the air. Our once peaceful apartment was becoming a digital battleground for attention, space, and privacy. It didn't take long for Max to stop pretending he was just visiting. At first, it seemed harmless enough. He'd leave his gaming headset on the couch, a bag of chips on the coffee table, his hoodie casually draped across the armrest. The kind of stuff that makes you roll your eyes, but you let it slide because he's not really living here, right? Wrong. One night, I came home after a long day of classes, hoping to kick back and catch up on some work, but I was met with a mess. Max's gaming console was plugged into the TV, cables snaking across the living room floor. I took a deep breath, trying not to flip out. I asked Lena if she could keep his stuff in the room when he wasn't here. She just shrugged it off like it was no big deal, saying Max likes to have his stuff nearby. Fine, I could live with that for a while. Then it started to snowball. Max's massive gaming laptop became a permanent fixture in the living room, plugged into the outlet most of the time. I would come home to find it charging, draining the electricity like it was going out of style. And as much as I tried to pretend it was okay, I noticed that the electric bill was climbing every month. Not just a few bucks either, a significant increase. I'm a broke college student, and every dollar matters. It wasn't long before I was seeing a $50 jump on the bill, and I knew it was all Max's fault. Of course, Lena didn't see the issue. "It's only a couple of days a week," she'd say. "You're overreacting, Tessa. Max doesn't use that much power." But I could see the bigger picture. It wasn't just the electricity, it was everything. Max was everywhere all the time. Slowly, his presence was starting to consume my space, my routine, and my peace of mind. When he wasn't gaming, he was eating. Every time I went to the kitchen, something I had bought was gone. Last week, I bought some fancy snack packs for myself to take to class, and when I went to grab one, nothing. Just a few crumbs left in the bag, and an empty package. I'm not someone who spends a lot of money on food, but I do like to treat myself every once in a while. Now, every time I bought something special for me, it felt like Max was just helping himself. One day, I came home to find an empty pizza box in the living room. Not my pizza, but Max's and Lena's. Of course, I didn't say anything at first. I tried to let it slide. But the next morning, I found one of my coffee mugs in the sink, with crumbs in it. I was already late for class, so I didn't have time to deal with it, but that stupid mug stayed in the sink all day. It wasn't just the mug. It was everything. The messes, the crumbs, the food, the laundry that would appear in the living room like he was living here rent-free. It all started to pile up, literally and figuratively. And let's not even talk about the groceries. I'd buy a pack of fruit, and the next day, half of it would be gone. Max would raid the fridge like it was his personal snack bar. I never once saw him contribute. Not even a, "Hey, do you need help picking up groceries?" Or, "I'll throw in a few bucks for dinner tonight." It was like I was subsidizing his lifestyle while I was struggling to make ends meet. Every single time I went to grab something, he'd already eaten it. At this point, I felt like I was playing some sort of sick game of hide and seek with my own food. If I wanted something, I had to hide it in the back of the fridge. But even that wasn't foolproof. It wasn't just the food. It was everything. I couldn't even walk into the living room without tripping over Max's gaming setup or stepping on a forgotten bottle of soda. The living room that used to be my sanctuary, my little retreat where I could unwind, had become a battlefield. And worst of all, I felt like I was being ignored in my own home. Max didn't even acknowledge it. He acted like he owned the place, but never once offered to contribute to anything. Rent? Not his problem. Utilities? They were covered by me, apparently. Anything else? It was like I was invisible. But I was done being the invisible one. I couldn't stay silent forever. One night, after yet another argument with Max about the dishes, I'd had enough. Lena was at work, so I figured it was the perfect time to address the elephant in the room. I took a deep breath, summoned all the courage I had, and decided to confront her. "Lena, this needs to stop," I said, my voice shaking slightly, but I wasn't going to back down. "I don't mind Max visiting. I really don't. But he's here all the time now, and it's affecting everything. He needs to start paying for utilities and groceries, or he can't keep staying here." Lena immediately got defensive, as I expected. "Tessa, he's not living here full-time. He's just visiting. It's not a big deal." I could feel the frustration bubbling up inside me. "Lena, it's not just about him visiting. It's about respect. This is my space too, and I feel like I'm constantly cleaning up after him and covering for him. I'm paying for everything, groceries, utilities, rent, and he's not contributing at all. It's not fair." She gave me that look, the one that said she didn't get it. "You're overreacting, Tessa. Max isn't doing anything wrong. He's just here sometimes. He helps me with stuff around the apartment. He even helped me fix the shelf last weekend." "Oh, really?" I retorted, trying to stay calm but failing. "And that makes it okay that he eats my food, leaves his stuff everywhere, and doesn't even pay a cent?" Lena's face flushed slightly, but she didn't back down. "Max isn't a bad guy, Tessa. You know that. I'm sure it's just a phase. He's not going to be here all the time forever." "That's not the point, Lena." I could feel my voice getting louder, but I didn't care anymore. "It's not a phase. It's becoming a permanent thing. And I'm the one left cleaning up the mess, paying the bills, and living in a space that's slowly being taken over. I'm not okay with it anymore." She crossed her arms, clearly frustrated. "You don't get it, do you? I'm in a relationship with him. He's part of my life. I shouldn't have to choose between you and him." I closed my eyes, trying to steady myself. "Lena, I'm not asking you to choose. I just want some respect. I'm not asking Max to move out, but he needs to pay his fair share. It's only fair." There was a long silence between us. I could see Lena's mind working, but she wasn't ready to fully understand. She opened her mouth to say something, but I stopped her. I'm serious, Lena. Things need to change. I left the conversation feeling drained. I didn't expect things to magically get better overnight, but I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. The tension was building, and I wasn't sure how long I could keep swallowing my frustration. I needed to make a choice. Stay quiet and keep letting it happen, or stand up for myself and finally make a change. And at that moment, I knew what I had to do. Things didn't improve. In fact, they got worse. Max was practically living here now. He wasn't just visiting occasionally. He was using the bathroom, taking long showers, eating our food, and playing video games at full volume even when I had homework to do. It felt like the apartment was becoming a battleground. I'd walk into the kitchen to find empty wrappers of snacks I'd bought, the refrigerator door wide open, and Max, sprawled out on the couch, laughing obnoxiously at some random video game stream. His gaming laptop was always plugged in, draining the electricity like it was an open faucet. The sound of the game would fill the living room. No matter how hard I tried to concentrate, there was no escape from it. Lena and I barely saw each other anymore. She was either at work or with Max, leaving me alone in the apartment, drowning in my frustration. I would come home after a long day, hoping for some peace, but it was like walking into a scene from a nightmare. Max would be sitting there, taking up the entire couch with his legs stretched out, his clutter scattered around. The couch I used to lounge on with Lena, the space where we'd spend quiet evenings together, had now become Max's domain. He was everywhere, physically and emotionally, and I didn't know how much longer I could take it. I had tried to address things before, but each time I was met with excuses or silence. It was always the same. Lena defending him, brushing off my concerns as if they were trivial. She didn't seem to understand. It wasn't about the space, not really. It was about respect. Max's complete disregard for the boundaries we had set was wearing me down. I felt invisible, like I was living in a place where my needs, my voice, didn't matter. It was suffocating. And then, one day, everything changed. Max walked into the living room while I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on an assignment I had due. The door creaked open, and I didn't even look up. He sauntered over to the couch and plopped down, as usual, his gaming laptop already open in front of him. Then, to my complete disbelief, he tossed me his phone like it was some casual gesture. "Hey," he said, his voice unusually calm. "I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think it's time to make things official." I stared at him for a moment, confused. What did that even mean? "What do you mean by that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral, though I could feel the frustration building up inside me. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out a literal piece of paper, a list of rules. At first, I thought maybe it was a joke, but then I saw the seriousness in his eyes. "First," he said, reading off the paper, "I need you to keep the Wi-Fi clear when I'm gaming." My eyebrows shot up. "What?" "Second," he continued, "no visitors when I'm around." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He went on, listing more ridiculous demands as though they were completely normal. "Third, no using the living room when I have my friends over. Fourth, you need to clean the bathroom once a week." And the list goes on, he said, casually scrolling through the paper, as if these were just minor requests. Felt like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about living arrangements anymore. He wasn't asking for a little more space. He was imposing a dictatorship on my home. He was treating this apartment like his personal kingdom, and I was just a subject, one who had no say in anything. I felt my hands shaking, my heart pounding in my chest. "Are you serious?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The shock was too much. My mind was racing. "You're not paying rent. You're not contributing to anything. You're eating our food, leaving messes everywhere, and now you're giving me rules to follow? This is my apartment too, and you can't just move in and take over." Max looked at me, his face flushing bright red. He didn't apologize. He didn't back down. Instead, he scoffed. "You're just not a good roommate," he snapped. "You're too uptight. You've got this whole 'it's my space' thing, but honestly, it's not like you're doing anything with it." I'm just trying to make things easier for us all. I could feel my blood boiling. Easier for us all? I repeated, incredulous. This isn't about making things easier for anyone. You're treating me like a doormat, Max. I've been covering for you, paying the bills, cleaning up after you, making this place livable for both of us. And this is how you repay me? Max didn't seem to care. He stood up, his shoulders tense, and stormed off into Lena's room, slamming the door behind him. I was left there, speechless, staring at the list in my hands, completely dumbfounded. How had it come to this? It wasn't just about the rules. It wasn't just about Max's blatant disrespect. Hey, are you finding the story interesting so far? If you are, make sure to subscribe to the channel so we can continue the adventure together. The best part is just ahead. After that confrontation, things only got worse. Lena was upset with me, but she couldn't see the bigger picture. I could feel the tension thickening between us every time we spoke. She accused me of being jealous, of trying to sabotage their relationship, and I could barely believe what I was hearing. He's just trying to help out, she said, as though living in our apartment without paying rent or contributing in any meaningful way was somehow helping. I couldn't understand why Lena couldn't see what was right in front of her. Max wasn't helping. He was living here for free, taking advantage of everything, the space, the food, the utilities, without lifting a finger. And worse, he was dismissing my feelings as if they didn't matter. It was all becoming too much. But no matter how many times I tried to explain, Lena just wouldn't get it. I knew it wasn't just about the money. It was about boundaries. It was about respect. I wasn't asking for the world. I just wanted some space to breathe, to feel like this apartment was still mine. Instead, I felt like an outsider in my own home. Max had this way of making himself comfortable, like he was the king of the castle, and I was just some uninvited guest. The living room had become his domain. His gaming gear was everywhere. Cords, headphones, a controller, scattered snacks, turning our once cozy space into his personal man cave. Max's presence became more constant with each passing day. At first, I tried to keep my distance, retreating to my room, hoping to avoid the mounting frustration. But it wasn't enough. Every time I came out, he was there, sprawled out on the couch, loudly bragging about his latest gaming achievements or complaining about the Wi-Fi, like he had some right to everything. And Lena, she didn't seem to care. She didn't seem to care that I was becoming invisible in my own space. Every conversation between us now revolved around Max, his needs, his gaming schedule, his comfort. When I tried to bring up how I was feeling, Lena would brush it off, like it was just some petty complaint from a jealous roommate. I couldn't bear it anymore. Lena had stopped hanging out with me. The girl I'd known, the one I used to spend hours talking with, was now more interested in spending time with Max. It was as though I had lost her completely. The dynamic was shifting, and I was losing control of everything. And then the final straw came. Max took it too far. After a long day of dealing with university and feeling the weight of everything piling on top of me, I came home to find Max, as usual, lounging on the couch. I hadn't even taken my shoes off before he was there, throwing me his phone like it was a casual gesture. "Hey," he said, his tone far too calm. "I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think it's time to make things official." I stared at him, confused and exhausted. Official? Official? I had no idea what he meant, but when he pulled out that list, the list of rules he had apparently written for my life, it felt like the world stopped for a second. "First," he said, reading off the list, "I need you to keep the Wi-Fi clear when I'm gaming." I blinked, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. "Second, no visitors when I'm around. Third, no using the living room when I have my friends over. Fourth, you need to clean the bathroom once a week." The list went on, each item more outrageous than the last. I felt my blood boil. It wasn't just a few requests. It was an entire list of demands, like he owned the place. He was imposing rules on me, on my space, without contributing a single dime, a single ounce of effort. I couldn't take it anymore. "Are you serious?" My voice shook, but I couldn't hold it back. "You're not paying rent, you're not contributing to anything, and now you're giving me rules to follow?" "You're not living here unless you start paying your way and cleaning up after yourself." Max looked at me like I was the one being unreasonable. His face turned bright red, and without missing a beat, he shot back, "You're just not a good roommate," he sneered, before storming off into Lena's room, slamming the door behind him. I was left standing in the living room, shaking, holding the list of rules that felt like a slap in the face. Couldn't believe it. How had things gotten this bad? How had we gone from roommates to this? I felt like I was losing my mind. Max had crossed a line that was hard to come back from. And Lena? She didn't even seem to notice. It was like she was blind to everything happening right in front of her. Or worse, she didn't care. I wasn't just frustrated, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken because my friendship with Lena felt like it was slipping away, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. The apartment that had once been a sanctuary was now a battleground. Every space I tried to claim was invaded by Max's presence. Every corner of the house I tried to carve out for myself was taken over by his mess, his noise, and his complete disregard for anyone else's comfort. That night, I knew something had to change. I couldn't keep living like this. It wasn't about being a good roommate anymore. It was about taking control of my life again. I needed to do something drastic. I needed help. I reached out to the landlord, explaining the situation, detailing how Max had been living here for months without paying rent, using the utilities and making everything harder. I showed him evidence, photos of the growing piles of Max's stuff in the living room, receipts for higher utility bills, even screenshots of our lease agreement, which made it clear that Max was violating the guest policy by overstaying his welcome. To my surprise, the landlord was understanding. He listened to my concerns, agreed that Max's presence was a violation of the lease, and said he would take action. A few days later, a notice arrived in the mail, a formal warning that Max could no longer stay in the apartment without paying rent. The guest policy was clear. No guest could stay for more than a set number of days without explicit approval. It felt like a small victory, but also like a betrayal. I had to go behind Lena's back to get any sort of action. It was frustrating, but I couldn't ignore the fact that this was the only way to regain control. Lena had to face reality, and I couldn't be the one to protect her from that anymore. But even with the landlord's support, I wasn't sure what would happen next. Would Lena finally see what was happening? Would Max leave, or would he find some way to ignore the rules, just like he'd ignored everything else? And would our friendship ever be the same again? All I could do now was wait. I had done what I could to fix the situation. The rest was out of my hands. When Lena found out, she was furious. Her face flushed with anger as she stormed into the living room. "How could you do this to me?" she yelled, her voice sharp and full of hurt. "You know Max and I are serious. You're trying to break us up." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm as the weight of her words hit me. It wasn't the first time I'd heard something like this from her, but it still stung. This wasn't just a petty argument about living arrangements. This was about the core of our friendship. I wasn't trying to break anyone up. I was trying to protect the space we'd built together, and most importantly, protect myself. But I stood firm. I knew what I had to say. "Lena, the rules were clear and Max broke them. This isn't just about the rent or the bills, this is about respect. You know, it wasn't just his stuff taking over. It was him taking over my life, my space, my relationship with you. And I've had enough." Lena's face twisted with disbelief. She seemed unable to grasp the bigger picture. "But he's been helping us. He's been here for you. He's trying to be a part of our lives." I couldn't contain the frustration anymore. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. "He's been here, yes, but he hasn't been helping. He's been manipulating you, taking advantage of me, and pretending like this is all okay." I paused, letting that sink in. "He's not the person you think he is, Lena." There was a long silence. She opened her mouth, closed it, and then sighed, as if the weight of my words was beginning to break through her defenses. The expression on her face softened, and I could see a flicker of doubt cross her eyes. It wasn't much, but it was enough to let me know that she was starting to question her blind trust in Max. The argument dragged on for what felt like hours. Lena tried to defend him, saying that Max was misunderstood, that maybe he was just going through something, but I kept pressing, calmly but with conviction. Lena, I'm your friend. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm telling you the truth. Look at how he's been treating us both. He's taking advantage of your kindness, your generosity, and mine. And he has no regard for either of us. Finally, something in her snapped. I could see it in the way her shoulders slumped, the way she lowered her gaze. The anger started to fade, replaced by something more raw regret, maybe quiet realization. I never saw it that way, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I thought I was helping him, but maybe I've been the one enabling him. It was a small victory, but it meant everything to me. For the first time in weeks, I saw my friend again. Not the woman who was blinded by love, but the Lena I had known. The Lena who would listen, who would care, who would stand by me when it mattered. I'm sorry, Lena whispered, the words coming out in a rush. I should have seen this sooner. I shouldn't have put you in this position. I was so caught up in him. I didn't notice how much I was hurting you. I felt a weight lift from my chest. But it wasn't enough. Apologies were just words. The real test would be what came next. I needed to know that Lena understood the gravity of the situation. It's not just about you and me, Lena, I said, my voice more composed now. It's about how we respect each other, our boundaries, and our space. This isn't just your relationship with Max, it's your relationship with me, too. And I need to know you'll have my back, no matter what. She nodded slowly, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of the old Lena, the one who was strong, thoughtful, and loyal. She promised to talk to Max, to set some boundaries, and to figure things out with him. The weeks that followed were far from easy. The tension between us remained palpable. I could feel the cracks in our friendship, and it wasn't something that would heal overnight. But slowly, Max started staying away. At first, he came over less frequently, and then, as time passed, the visits became even more sporadic. Lena focused on her studies again, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I could hear my own thoughts without Max's presence constantly overshadowing everything. Our apartment, once a war zone, started to feel like mine again. The walls felt a little less suffocating, the air a little lighter. I was finally able to reclaim the space I had lost, to bring back the routines and the calm that had once made this place feel like home. The tension between Lena and me eased, too. We still had some awkward silences here and there, but they were nothing compared to the tension that had built up before. We started hanging out again, sharing meals and talking like we used to. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Max was still in the picture, but now it was his choice, not mine. I didn't have to tolerate his presence in my life unless it was on my terms, and that felt empowering. As for Lena, she kept her word. She talked to Max. She had the hard conversation about boundaries, and, to my surprise, Max seemed to back off. Maybe he'd realized that Lena was no longer going to tolerate his manipulative behavior, or maybe he'd found another person to latch onto. Either way, he was no longer a constant in our lives. But it didn't feel like a victory, not entirely. The damage had been done. Lena and I were no longer the same, and that was something I had to come to terms with. We would never go back to what we were before Max came into the picture. But maybe that was okay. Maybe we were both stronger for it. I spent the next few days reflecting on everything that had happened, on the anger, the hurt, and the eventual resolution. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a new beginning. A beginning where I could finally breathe again, where I could focus on my studies, on my life, and on me. Lena, too, seemed to be rediscovering herself. She was more present now, more engaged, and though our relationship had shifted, I could see that we both had grown from the experience. In the end, I realized that sometimes the hardest battles aren't with other people, they're with ourselves. Standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable, is never easy, but it's always worth it. And maybe, just maybe, Lena and I would find our way back to each other. It might take time, but I was willing to try. Epilogue. Living together again wasn't the same. Things had changed. Our friendship had been tested, and though it wasn't perfect, we were working on rebuilding it. I still kept a backup plan, though, just in case. And Max? Well, I haven't seen him since. Maybe it's for the best. This whole experience taught me something important. Boundaries matter. And when you let people walk all over you, it's easy to lose yourself in the process. So, what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on the story. Did it resonate with you? Or maybe you've been through something similar. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to be the first to hear the next story. Your support really keeps me going, and I appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much for sticking around and listening to today's story. Until next time,